So I believe I am a little over halfway through High on Life now. So in this video we are going through, it's basically in between the first impressions and the full-on review. I've done first impressions for the game. I will be doing a full review when I am done with it. But in this one I want to help people decide whether this game is actually worth buying. And just quickly before we do jump into this one, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that supports the channel. The channel is growing very nicely. I appreciate all the support on the links in the description, like the merch purchases, the buy me a coffee, the CD Keys affiliate link, and I would also like to welcome all the new subscribers to the channel. And jumping into this one, a little bit of a very basic description for the game. It's an open world game. It's based on aliens overtaking your planet. You get taken onto an alien planet, then you have to essentially go and take down the main sort of criminal that's overtaken your planet without giving too much away. At least as you progress through the game, you are working towards taking the big enemy down, like the main boss. But it's open world in between missions. The missions are bounties. As far as I am aware, there are 7 of them. There's only enough slots on the bounty selector to take on 7 bounties. I have done 4 of them so far. So you become this bounty hunter. You have to take down the bosses. The name of the group is the G3 Cartel. So the game is open world in terms of you're able to explore the main planet you're on. You can go to the other planets. There are these things called lug boxes which hold currency. If you find a basic one, they will give you 100. If you find a more advanced one, they'll give you 300. They are scattered around the planets that you explore. So you have the open world in terms of that. But then when you actually go in for the main missions or the bounties, they are very linear. You just have to progress towards your objective, go into an arena and take down the boss. At the very start of this game, it was incredible in terms of the comedy. It's made from a co-creator of Rick and Morty, and they really know how to break the fourth wall. Shout out to Robbie Biddle for letting me know the actual term for it. And for those of you that don't understand, in this game you have guns, but these guns have personalities, and they will actually talk to you, but breaking the fourth wall, they talk directly to you. So it's not like they're talking about the enemies or talking about other characters. They actually have a go at you if you try shooting people that aren't supposed to be shot. If you pause the game in the middle of a gunfight, sometimes the gun's going to tell you off. But after around 2 hours, the comedy, all that sort of stuff, it drastically slows down. And it does, in a way, just become repetitive. And not only that, the enemies are incredibly repetitive. From the very start of the game all the way up until about halfway through, they are exactly the same. You've got a few different archetypes, so it's not that they are exactly the same. But there is only one faction throughout the entire game. So it does get a little bit sort of, oh, I've seen this all before, I've done this all before. There are little like critters that run around, these little bugs. But apart from that, actual enemies that are going to shoot back and stuff, there's only one faction in the entire game. So after a few hours, it might get a little bit repetitive. And another thing to note is this game is only going to cost you money if you play it through Steam. If you have Xbox Game Pass, it is available on Game Pass. So this video is more catered towards people that might be picking up the game on Steam at some point. And unfortunately, the game's not available on Switch, it's not available on the PlayStation. It is just an Xbox and PC title. And the reason I'm making this one in between the first impressions and the full review is because this game is going to set you back £46.50. It's a very weird price, but it's about $50 for this game. So I wanted to give you opinions on how I'm feeling about the progress I've made so far, and to give you a better understanding about the game without spoiling too much, so that you can decide whether you actually want to pay the full price for it or wait for a sale. So in this game as well, there is something called the pawn shop. You go there and that's where you can purchase upgrades for your weapons, for your suit. You eventually get extra abilities and stuff as you progress further into the game. But when you do go back to the pawn shop, you'll notice very quickly that the dialogue repeats itself. The main character in there is in there with his son, and every time you purchase something, or at least what I can remember, every time I've purchased something and I've gone to walk out of the shop, the guy starts asking questions about how the day's been, and the kid just doesn't want to know. There's absolutely no interest, but it starts repeating itself very early. And I would say they're quite important characters because, like, you go back to the pawn shop quite often to purchase upgrades and abilities and stuff. So it seems as though some of the important characters in the game don't actually have a lot to say. Then with the upgrades themselves, the upgrades for the guns seem like a waste of time and a waste of money, or like currency, pesos, or whatever you want to call the currency in the game. It feels like a waste unless you're looking for all the lug boxes, you've got a load of currency spare, because I spent 1,000 on a magazine upgrade for Sweezy, the third gun you unlock, and I went from 25 rounds in the mag up to 28. I spent 1,000 currency on 3 extra bullets per mag. So it just seems as though it's not really worth it. The reload speed and stuff, they might be worth it, but the magazine upgrade, I really feel like I wasted my currency. And then with the dialogue itself, as I said, it does seem as though the comedy drastically slows down. The dialogue actually starts to become quite annoying in my opinion. The comedy in this game started off really strong. There were a lot of funny moments, but it quickly fell off. And the game has just started to feel as though it's just taken itself too seriously. It started off really light-hearted, funny, loads of jokes, loads of satire and taking the piss out of other games and stuff. Then as you progress through, you start doing the bounties and everything. It just seems as though there's a lot of repetitive talking and it just gets too serious. The fun, the comedy, the entertainment is nowhere near as good as it was at the start of the game. But in High on Life, the boss fights are really, really cool. The arenas they put you in are nice, the boss attack patterns, they're different, they're wacky, and it's one of the things that, at least this far into the game, they have stayed consistent with. I have enjoyed every single boss battle I've had so far, and to go alongside that, the suit upgrade abilities are fun to use, especially the one called Slide Bash. That's one I really like. It basically lets you slide around when you have the fuel available or the stamina, and you can actually hit enemies on the move. So instead of just a simple dash forward, if you're just sprinting forward and you press your B button or your dash button, you're going to do this slide bash, and you're going to just continuously dash until your fuel runs out. And you can basically come in like a speed train and you can smack your enemies with it. And then one last thing about this that's a little bit on the irritating side. There are constant arguments between your sister and Jean, who's the original bounty hunter in the game. And your sister has been there from the very start of the game as well. But Jean's basically moved into your house. Your house becomes your main hub where you take on the missions and things like that. And every single time I have come back from a bounty, I have come back to them arguing, and you're always having to settle their arguments. You have to basically pick sides. And it does get frustrating. You're on a bounty, you've had a little bit of a tough time, or you've had a load of fun exploring the planet, you've taken down a boss with really cool moves, you come back into the main hub being your home, and there's just an argument happening. And half these arguments, there's no point to them whatsoever. One of the big ones was your sister is dating an alien, and Jean, who's just a bounty hunter, doesn't like it and doesn't agree with it, and is trying to play this father figure sort of role. But yeah, the arguments get annoying. The comedy drops off very fast in my opinion, but that doesn't take away from the gameplay, the atmosphere, the environment. Everything is top notch in this game. And based on that, with it being £46.50 or whatever on Steam, I'm going to say it's not worth that money. I'm not saying it's not worth picking up. The game is a lot of fun. There are just a few downsides that take away from what would have been a really, really high score in my final review. I don't want to give away too much, but the final review is still going to be a relatively high score. But in terms of how much I would pay, because I'm saying it's not worth its full price, I'm going to say around £30 to £35. Give it a 20-25% discount, and I would say it's definitely worth picking up at that price. I just don't think for the amount of gameplay time you're getting, and for how serious the game becomes about halfway through, maybe even quite a bit before that, I don't think it's worth its full asking price. I'm thoroughly enjoying the game, do not get me wrong, but there are a few downsides in terms of how repetitive it becomes, and it goes from being incredibly entertaining to just a mediocre, repetitive game. But hopefully, building up to the final full review for the game, hopefully there is some sort of a change and it gets better instead of just continuing on this like downward spiral. But that is something we are going to have to wait for. That is my opinions on the game about halfway through and whether I believe it's worth its full price or not. Is it worth buying? Is it worth playing? And that is going to wrap up this video. Let me know your thoughts and stuff about High on Life in the comments, and check out this video if you want to see other content on the channel. I will see you in the next one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.